Just need to confirm if they can hear us, we can hear them. But yeah, how many people are this?
No, you don't. No, just.
Good morning. My name's Len Kona from NRF and HSRC. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Good morning. It's Kidirang Wahile from the NRF. I can hear you as well.
Good morning, honorable members and colleagues. I think we can start our meeting. Shanaz, can I kindly note any apologies, please?
Good morning, Chair and members and everybody on the platform. So the apologies we received were from the Minister who's accompanying the President today. The Deputy Minister is traveling, and then the DG is also involved in SKA discussions abroad. So those were the three apologies received. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thanks, Shanaz. All right, so we have three entities that we are interacting with. Last week, we interacted with some of the entities from the Department of Science and Innovation together with the department itself. And so now we're just continuing with some of the other entities of the department in receiving their performance reports. I received a big delivery from the HSRC that includes its annual performance report. That delivery is appreciated, colleagues. So we're going to start with the National Research Foundation, and then we'll take the Human Sciences Research Council, and then we'll go for the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, and then we'll take questions and comments and recommendations from members. It's 9:04. I'd like to hand over, I don't know if there's anyone from the department who, Dr. Moafe, I don't know if there's any remarks you'd like to make before I hand over to the NRF.
Yes, good morning, Chairperson. It's just really a matter of, as you've done, introduce the three entities. I don't know if I'm audible. Am I audible, Chairperson?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, thanks very much. Just to introduce the three entities that are going to be presenting today. As you are aware, these are the entities that form the family of the DST entities that contribute to us as a science system, making the necessary impact. So we got the representatives, which would be in the form of the executives and the board representatives of the entities, are going to lead us through the presentations. And as you've indicated, I'm just going to hand over to the chair of the board of the NRF, who will then introduce the CEO and then get us going in terms of the first presentation. Thanks very much, Chairperson, and we will then be guided by yourself and the team as to how we manage the engagements as the progression of the presentation goes on. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moafe. If we could then have the next presentation prepared for flighting.
Recording in progress.
But also hand over to the chair of the NRF, Prof. Musa Mushabela, and the CEO, Prof. Nelamondo.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and members. I want to start by apologizing that I'm joining while I'm still in the car. I was a bit stuck in traffic, but I am here, Chair, and it's my pleasure to be here and to bring the board and the executive from the NRF to present the report. And I also want to thank our colleagues from the DSI for leading the delegation today as well. So, Chair, please allow me to invite our CEO, Dr. Nelamondo, to deliver the presentation from the NRF. The board has reviewed the presentation, and we are happy with it. And we are also here to help address any concerns or questions that may arise. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee,
Let me start by sharing the screen. And can somebody just please confirm if you can see my screen?
We can see the screen, Dr. Neramondo.
Okay, so thank you very much, honorable members. It is indeed my pleasure and honor to be presenting this annual performance report of the NRF for the year 2022-2023, which was indeed a very successful year under extraordinary conditions. I think people will recall that we began the year still under COVID restrictions. We then got lifted around June thereabout. But the first part of the year had those restrictions which affected some performance elements. But be that as it may, we still had a very good performance during the course of the year. So just to go through the presentation, my slides will touch on the NRF mandate, just to remind everyone of what our mandate is. I will give the strategy context. I will talk about the progress on the NRF strategy 2025, and I will share the highlights and the achievements for the year 2022-2023. And I will then also go into the performance targets and the outcome for the year. And towards the end, I will cover the financial overview of the year. Just on this part, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, as it has been shared, the RSK activities and my CFO, Mr. Singh, who's here on the presentation, will be flying to join the delegation. So we might miss him towards the end if questions that relate to finance only come at the end. But be that as it may, we should be able to cover everything. He's here online, but he'll be flying during the course of this session. And I will then end with the closing remarks towards the end. So just to start with the mandate, just bear with me 1 second, Honorable Member. I just want to make sure that I can see the screen on my side. Just 1 second. Okay. So just to give a sense of what we do as the NRF and to remind everyone of our mandate. Our mandate can be split into 4 areas. The first one is around the promotion and supporting and advancing of research and human capacity development through funding and the provision of the necessary infrastructure. And we're doing this to facilitate creation of knowledge, innovation and development in all fields of science and technology. And when we talk of the all science areas, we're including humanities and social sciences. Second element talks to us developing and supporting and maintaining the national research facilities. And by definition here, we're talking about large research facilities that cannot be placed within one particular space, SKA being one such kind of facility that one can think of, amongst many others. Thirdly, our role in supporting and promoting public awareness and engagement with science. The key parts, honorable members, here being that it can't just be the good science that we do, but the good science that we do should also involve the communities, and the communities must be aware, but beyond being aware, they must be able to engage with the science. And lastly, promoting the development and the maintenance of the national system and supporting the government priorities. So as I go through the presentation for this morning, we will be guided by this mandate and we'll share the results in as far as how we performed in delivering on this broad mandate that the NRF has. So as a way of starting, I'll just give a strategic context. We are an organization that, of course, is placed at the center of the science system because our stakeholders fall within the higher education space, but also within the science space in general, where the science councils, the universities, and so on are all involved. So the positioning is that we want to have a transformed and agile knowledge system for the country. But to do that, it requires us as the NRF to be a transformed and agile knowledge organization that can shape and influence all aspects of the research and the knowledge enterprise with a serious and unwavering commitment to transformation, impact, excellence, and sustainability, which is what we have spelled as our ties. In these 4 areas, we have put them as our pillars, where transformation in the way we define it is much broader than the demographic transformation. It's about transforming the system holistically and being able to see the change in geographic performance of science. You don't want only one area of the country to be performing good science and the others not. You don't want one particular age group to be performing science and not the other. So it's transformation very broadly, in a sense that we're saying, how do we transform the science system to be meaningful, to be inclusive, and to also factor all the challenges that have been experienced as far as transformation is concerned, including the involvement of people with who are living with disabilities. We then talk of impact, and the whole idea is that the science that we support and the science that we do has to make societal impact. It must change the life or livelihood of people positively. And this is where we are saying, as much as we are funding science, as much as we are performing science in the space where it could be fundamental in nature, it must have a holistic view and an approach that say, we know we are doing this science because we want to improve the quality of life. And that's what we do. Excellence is a critical foundation for this. Because unless we focus on excellence, one can argue that there's no way that we are going to make the impact that we're talking about. And it is for this reason that we don't compromise on excellence. To say we want to fund excellent research, but be able to support it as well to ensure that it can continue, which takes us to an element of sustainability, where the focus here is we need to ensure that the science that we do today can be done tomorrow and the day after. This is sustainability in various forms, looking at sustainability financially, looking at sustainability from the environmental aspects of sustainability in all ways that one can think of, to say, how do we ensure that we don't deplete the resources that allow us to do the science? Because without this, we won't have a better tomorrow. Now, when you look into the strategic context, and this is anchored on the impact statement that we have in the NRF Strategy 2025, which talks about the national development that is enabled through advancing, promoting, and supporting research. So how do we enable the national development through what we do? To achieve this impact statement, we have identified a number of outcomes, and this will shape my conversation going forward in the slides. So maybe let me just spend a little bit of time here. The first part is transformation that I spoke about, where we are saying we want to look into an outcome of a transformed research workforce. Regardless of where you are, as long as is a science system that we're supporting in the South African context, how do we ensure that we move towards having a transformed research workforce? And here I'm focusing on the workforce. Also, we want to then have enhanced impact of the research enterprise. And the enhanced impact, as I've just mentioned in the previous slide, we want the science to make impact. So how do we ensure that the research enterprise as a whole is actually making impact? It's actually improving the quality of life. It's actually taking South Africa from the challenges, the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, in however way that science can impact in those areas. We also want to look into this from the context of science engagement. How do we ensure that the communities are engaged? How do we ensure that communities are learning about science? They are aware, they are educated, and communities will involve everyone from a very young child who's living in the rural area who might not know much about science, but how do we create an appetite for them to feel like they need to be part of the science system. They want to understand science and they want to be involved in science. And lastly, the last outcome is us as an organization, as the NRF, where we are looking into how do we ensure that we become an organization that lives its culture and values, because it is because of this culture that we have internally that we can actually impact the society outside of our space. So just to give you a short summary on the progress around these 4 outcomes, I will just touch on how we have created indicators relating to these outcomes, and I won't go through them, but we're going to show slides on the details of the performance for the year. But just looking into this in the context of Strategy 2025, where the first part is around transforming the research workforce, we look into the profile of NRF-funded postgraduate students who have completed their studies. The emphasis, honorable members, here is who have completed, because we have actually moved away from just counting how many people are in the system. What matters is the outcome, or how many of them are completing, how many of them are going through and becoming well-educated, well-informed, and well-equipped to face challenges out there and to be able to advance development for the country. So we look into the profile of NRF-funded postgraduate students who have completed. We also look into the NRF-funded researchers who are producing research outputs. So again, we are looking at this with an eye on productivity. And we look into this around our designated groups, how many of them are Black, how many of them are women, how many of them have a disability. So the list goes on. Here I'm just giving a very high level. So if you look at the key levers and initiatives that we've created, just to look into this outcome alone, we've created a number of initiatives. One of them is postgraduate funding policy, where we have moved away from the partial funding of students, where we are saying, how do we ensure that the funding is holistic? We do full cost of cover as opposed to partial, and these will sort of assist us in making sure that students then complete their studies. When students are partially funded, they find themselves trying to find side jobs here and there to ensure that they can actually make ends meet. And we now saying we are now directed by this policy that we have developed with the Department of Science and Innovation to ensure that we can fund the students fully. Of course, that comes with its own consequences, in that the numbers of people that you're funding could be smaller, but it being smaller, you are funding them meaningfully. So that's one of the initiatives that we created. The other one is a number of emerging research programs. And I think this is very critical for the young population that South Africa is, where we still have a very big cohort of young researchers and young people. So we are looking into how do we support the emerging researchers. And we have been working with other departments, DHET in particular, in some of the programs, NGAP. We have the BAP program, the Black Academic Advancement Program, the TUKA programs that are specifically focusing on emerging researchers and how we should support them to ensure that they become the future cohort of researchers for the future. We also created an initiative around the scholars who are leading, and this is what we call the Leading Researcher and Scholars Program. We're saying, let's look at people who are sort of advanced. How do we support them? And supporting them meaningfully to the point that they're going to make impact. The other initiative is around equity, diversity, and inclusion, and I've been emphasizing the aspect of ensuring that science is performed by everyone. Science is not just for the select few, so how do we ensure that equity, diversity, and inclusion becomes a key pillar? And that's one of the initiatives that we've created. Where we are moving to now, we are moving towards a space where we are saying we want to support institutions, and this is the institutional capacity development, where the key element here is, can we find those areas where support need to be given to a particular institution to ensure that they can develop. Some universities, for example, could be low in terms of staff with PhDs, and how do we ensure that we can actually create capacity in that area? Some of them could be that you have a staff who might have PhDs, but they've never supervised. How do we ensure that we can support them in teaching them and mentoring them, or creating a mentorship program that can allow their staff members to supervise meaningfully? And that's what we're trying to do, which talks to the issue of excellence and quality. The other outcome that I want to come to is the enhanced impact of research enterprise, where again here we're looking into impact holistically, as I've mentioned, looking at ex post impact assessments, where we're saying, after we have funded you for 15 years, can you look back and say, this is the impact that my science has done? And we'll use that as an input towards the next cycle of funding. So we want to look into those. We are looking into the domain balance in research infrastructure provisioning to say, again, it's not just infrastructure that we're creating for the STEM sciences. What kind of infrastructure can we create for the humanities and social sciences? What infrastructure can we create for all other areas? And also evidence-based decision-making, especially looking into these in the context of all these digital transformation aspects, AI coming into the picture, amongst many other things. So what we have done, we've created an NRF framework to advance societal and knowledge impact for research, which has been communicated widely with the university cohort, with the stakeholders, and is an impact that is a framework that we are going to be using going forward. We have created the research agenda, which is much aligned to the decadal plan of the department. We have a research development information platform that allows the universities to and other stakeholders to look at how they've been performing in the research space. You know, are their numbers going down? Are they going up? What's going on? And they can do that even through just a use of our websites. They log in, they can sort of follow their data, they can compare themselves with other institutions and so forth. Again, being in the information age, we're saying, let's make sure that there's an enhanced impact of research enterprise. Where we are going now, we are focusing on research infrastructures for the human sciences and social sciences, and again, focusing on creating innovation platforms. The third one is the enhanced impact of science engagement. Again, I spoke about this. We want an engaged science community that understands science. We want entrenched science within everything that that is being done, and mainstreaming of engaged science. We have created a number of initiatives, engaged research framework, aspects of citizen science and science shops, science engagement, capacity development initiatives, and the focus of repositioning SASTA, which is our agency, South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement, to play a national coordinating role for this aspect. Where we are moving to now is how do we then include science engagement in the funding of the research grants, where somebody could be applying for research here and to say, as part of that funding instrument, how do we ensure that you will do science engagement, you will involve the communities within which your science is being conducted, and so forth. And that's what we are about to do now. Lastly, as the fourth outcome, is a transformed organization that lives with culture and values. And here we are looking at the staff composition at decision-making level, around the demographics, Black, women, people with disabilities. We're looking at inclusive and enabling and creating a learning organization that listens. And we are trying to create a culture that enhances high performance and service excellence, because we are there to service the system. Here we have created a number of things: employment equity plan that aligns the plan targets in the employee development programs. We've started a number of programs, including employee mentorship programs, amongst many other programs that we are creating to ensure that we become a service organization that can service the system sufficiently. And of course, the cultural change programs. At the moment, we're busy with the service delivery model, where we're changing the structure again to fit and to be in line with what the organization ought to do. I'm quickly going to just go into the highlights for the year. And as basically the way we operate, you will not run short of highlights. We have so many highlights. So I'm just going to give you very few here. And the first one I'll just talk about, I'll put them into three areas. So it'll be the science for society, or science to society highlights. I will talk about the global science, and I'll talk about knowledge outputs very briefly. I can give a number of examples, like I've said, but let me just talk about energy. And we are fortunate that today there's no load shedding. but energy is a critical component that has to be looked into. I'm pleased to say that we have partnered with SASOL, and we have created a jointly funded South African research chairs, 9 in number, in the areas that support the just energy transition. 5 of them are in the energy and power systems modeling, 4 of them in the green hydrogen, and we are creating 6 postdoctoral innovation program fellowships in the energy sector. And this is the beginning. We're trying to have more engagement with SASOL, but again, at the same time, having a similar conversation with a number of stakeholders in the private sector. Sustainability is a critical component. At the moment, the NRF and South Africa have been awarded the hosting rights for the Africa Hub this is the Africa Hub for the Future Earth. And the Africa Hub will join 8 other global hubs in all other places: Canada, China, France, Japan, South Asia, Sweden, Taiwan, and the US. So this is the only one in Africa. And we're very happy to be hosting that and focusing on sustainability. We have had a number of engagements even during the course of last year, where we even had conferences and so forth. But the key part is sustainability is very critical, and we're happy to have this node within our space. On the health side, one highlight that I just want to touch on here is the South African Isotope Facility, which we launched at Itemba Labs. But the key part here is not just the launching of the infrastructure itself. And you can see the pictures on your the bottom picture on the screen, which gives you a sense of this 70 MeV cyclotron that we have, which is the only, or rather the biggest cyclotron that we have on the African continent. But more than that, it becomes an anchor for South Africa to be on the forefront of providing radioisotopes for detection of cancer, for usages in the treatment of cancer, and even other diseases, TB, amongst others. This then provides us with opportunities for ongoing research and income generation, again, giving us an opportunity to place South Africa on the forefront of the map. Some of the isotopes that we sell in South Africa, from South Africa, they go as far as even Russia and other countries for that matter, which again shows that what we're creating is on the forefront of science. Emergency response, I just want to touch on this element very quickly. We had in May last year, if you look at the picture that you see on top, you'll see this platform, which looks like a chopper. It's not a standard chopper, but this is what we have. It's a science instrument that collects data, that does surveillance. So it's a science instrument. And we have found ways of using this instrument even to service the country during the times of challenges. In May last year, following the floods in KZN, this was immediately deployed to capture the low altitude images of the affected areas, and the information was then shared with the National Disaster Management Center and so on. Where again, we are saying, while we are busy with the science, when there are opportunities for us to then assist, we can use the science that we've already developed, the instruments we've developed to then address immediate needs. Blue economy, the NRF national facilities provided an impetus to developing a sustainable blue economy. We launched 2 DSI NRF joint marine laboratories with the previously disadvantaged universities, one of them UWC, on marine pollution, which everyone knows that that's a serious issue, bottles, things that are sort of thrown into our oceans, and we have that work taking place with the University of the Western Cape. We have work that's taking place through the lab at the University of Fort Hare on the marine bioeconomy. Again, this is a very good thing given that we have a long coastline, we have a very big marine territory, and what we are trying to do is we are trying to use science, bringing even some of the cutting edge instruments and technologies to assist us in understanding what's going on within our marine space. At the moment, we can even go up to 1,000 meters below the surface of the water to see, to take pictures, with cameras and so on. And this is something that's very exciting, given that not so many people can actually reach this level of clarity and being able to deliver science that can sort of work under that level of pressure. Things explode. I'm sure some of you remember the explosion that happened early in the year, trying to go see the Titanic at about 4 times the depth of what we can see here. But the key part is we are using the science to then address, or rather to address our challenges, but also taking advantage of our coastline and our marine territory. Moving on to the global science, I think one of the key components, honorable members, is the fact that as the NRF, as South Africa, and perhaps as Africa, we have placed astronomy on the forefront. And this is something that's giving us a very good advantage. Issues of SKA, you look at tourism in the astronomy sector is now increasing simply because of the instruments that we have. From the international standing, the construction of the SKA telescope, which began from a vision by the Department of Science and Innovation just over 20 years ago, I think is a very good outcome at the moment when one looks at it and say, when you see what we have in the Northern Cape, it's sort of putting us in a space that probably no one in the world will ever reach. You look into the economic return, we are starting to see benefits from these. The first major civil construction contracts valued at close to 900 million rands were awarded to local engineering companies. And again, that then talks to technical sustainability and helping us use the very civil science that we are doing to also uplift the communities. When you look into the global collaboration, we have a number of collaborators on the optical side, on the astronomy side of things. We have a new optical telescope that was commissioned in Sutherland, a 1.8 meter telescope. Again, doing this with in collaboration with a number of stakeholders, University of Osaka, the Astrobiology Center of Tokyo, NASA, Goddard Space Center of the University of Maryland, among others. So again, this says that the science that we are doing is not just for ourselves. It's putting us in a space where we can collaborate internationally, we can engage with international communities, but not as a beggar, but as someone who's saying, I know what we know what we are doing, and we are doing good science, and our science is on the forefront. The other one is the leading edge scientific discoveries that we have. A group of astronomers from our South African Astronomy Observation and the Max Planck Institute were involved in the discovery of rare white dwarfs binary star system. Again, it's not about the dwarfs that we are more impressed about, but the fact that we are leading in discovering all sorts of things that probably no one in the world will ever discover if they were not working with instruments that we have created, if they were not working with the platforms that we have in our space. The Meerkat Radio Telescope Array was also used in the discovery of some of the largest hydrogen atoms in the universe. A powerful mega massa as well, which is a radio wavelength laser, which sort of indicates that there are galaxies that could be that were colliding many years ago, because what we're sort of seeing now is probably what happened many years ago. But again, this helps us in seeing where we are coming from, because until you know fully where you're coming from, you may not know where you're going as well. So I think it also helps us in understanding the universe, understanding our spaces. Again, being on the forefront of science and being in a space where we can say, as South Africa, we can now talk with pride and say, science systems that we've created are working and they put us on the forefront. I'm now going to jump into the performance targets quickly. The first one, and maybe let me just start by saying I will discuss this under 4 programs. The first one being administration. Administration, we're talking about a number of aspects, but the key part here we're dealing with the proportion of employees who are involved in the decision making or who are leading in the management. We had a target during the course of the year of 63.7, and we exceeded that target by ending at 65. We had a target on the predictable and sustainable resourcing of the NRF mandate, where the key part again here was, let's ensure that our resources, all our financial resources, don't end up just on ourselves. They end up servicing the system. And we have a target of saying, we don't want this figure, the overhead, to be more than 10%. We exceeded the target. by falling way below the 10%, falling at 8.7%, again showing that indeed we are sort of not using this for ourselves, but we are investing in the system. Program 2, science engagement, we look into the number of interventions that are implemented for the general public. With a target of 12, we fell. We exceeded this into by having 17 interventions achieved, and this was assisted by the fact that things started opening up, and we could then start having a lot of interventions. And just to give context, an intervention here is something that could be big. It could be something that's very big. That could be a national kind of activity where you might have to go to all the provinces and you do this, engagements with communities. It could take a full year, but you can consider that as one intervention. So we have a number of these interventions that are taking place. National Science Week could be one of them, for example, where you say during this week, we want to reach all the schools, we want to reach all the corners, but that will be regardless of how many schools one has reached. That's just one intervention. So we also created a number of interventions for math, science, and technology support for learners. The target was to have 14 interventions. We exceeded that with 26 targets being what we've achieved. So program 1 and program 2, all the targets were exceeded, and this was very busy. It created a very busy space for everyone. But I think I must also commend the commitment of the staff that were involved in ensuring that these programs became successful. The funding element under program 3, which is the research and innovation support and advancement, we were tracking the number of students that are funded. The number of funded students decreased significantly, and this is a point that I have made so many times. So we have funded, we still exceeded our target. Our target was to fund 6,218 students. We exceeded the number. We funded 6,000, just under 6,700. But I still believe that we should be funding much more than this, because we are sitting with way more than the students that we are funding who are sitting outside of our funding circles, who may not be able to go and do their studies simply because they don't have funding. And we are sitting with, for example, here on this element alone, we have fundable applications that probably may need about 2.5 billion rands to fund them. They meet all the requirements, but they just not funded simply because there's just no money to fund them. So funding this number remains a challenge. We are funding about 6,000 students in a system that has over 150,000 students at postgraduate level. But again, we just need to keep on pushing to ensure that what we are funding is meaningful and it's also in the right areas of science. Likewise, funded researchers. In the funded researchers, we exceeded the target. The target was 3,000. We funded 3,332, and this was due to the risk that we took as well to over allocate, because some of the researchers end up not taking the grants simply because of certain things. Some of them fall sick, some of them move to another country, and so on. And you find that there's a gap in the grants that are taken up. So because of that, we sort of oversubscribe and we manage to fund them. So again, it's something that we are going to manage closely, but this helps us in exceeding the target. Program 4, which is the last program, socioeconomic contribution from the national facilities. This is where we had challenges. So the first part here that we're tracking is the foreign income, which is derived from the national facility activities. This includes the income that we have from sales of radioisotopes. To give you context, the previous year, we were at 80 million rands. We put a very ambitious target of more than doubling that figure to 171 million rands as a target. We fell at 152, which is twice what we had the previous year. So that is very commendable. But we still did not meet the target that we have put for ourselves. And the reason for this was, perhaps there were many reasons, including the interruptions of the production schedule due to power cuts. Some of these machines, to start them after switching them off takes a bit of time, and because of that, this affected our delivery on this element. And linked to the very same point, the point that you have on the knowledge translation for societal benefit, we also track the number of patient dosages that are generated from radioisotopes that are produced by Itamba Labs, where they target of 225,000 doses. We ended up at 164, and it's for the very same reason that the machines that we are using, among others, get affected by power cuts. And because of that, we also lost an isotope supplier contract, among other things. So the key part again is these are two things that are interrelated and very much connected. The other element is the number of technical and policy brief. I think that is met. So I'm not going to spend time on the ones that's been met. And the last one is a new target that we started measuring, where we started saying, let's try to measure the number of active IP products that we're generating. So we set this target recently. We had a target of 5 last year, and we managed to more than double or almost triple that figure, and we fell at 14. And it's something that now we'll be going forward, creating more IP products from the research that we perform. So this is what is performed within the NRF. So overall, the NRF achieved 8 of the 10 targets, and the 2 that were not achieved is the number of patient doses and also the foreign income that's generated from national facilities. And it, like I said, affected by many things, including load shedding in the main. The 2 missed targets, as I've mentioned, we had to sort of find a way of getting a solution. And in doing that, we've approached ESCOM, we've approached relevant ministers through our minister to ensure that we can get electricity supply guarantees. And this is in progress. So many thanks to the minister and to the Department of Science and Innovation for supporting us in this request. So I'm just going to touch on the finances. And maybe this slide gives you a full sense of our performance overall. The revenue overall increased to 4.7 billion last year, coming from a 4.5 in the previous year. The expenditure also improved or increased by 6.4%. But again, this was linked to the SKAO membership fees and payments that were made, which were behind. But we managed to increase the expenditure. Again, that is a positive element because it means we're not sitting with the money. The money that we have, we end up using it for what it was intended for. Personnel costs went up. Again, this was because during COVID, we had put a moratorium on recruitment. But when things started opening up, we ended up saying now we need to actually start filling vacancies. And again, that is something that is positive. Property, plant and equipment, improvement there, 6%. Investment in research and student and research platforms, again, increased by 6%. And maybe one key point here is that 6%, in my view, it's not sufficient. We should be improving more if we really want to still get to more investment in R&D as per our National Development Plan and the Decadal Plan and the DSI. But of course, we have to work with what we have. Investment in science engagement, again, improved. We invested 7% more than we did the previous year, 125 million rand in this particular course. Again, a serious improvement. When you look at asset sustainability, again, we are doing very well. We are at 1.6. The benchmark is we should just be above 1, so we are more than 50% above the benchmark, so we are doing very well. When you look into the total liabilities, our liabilities have decreased by 12%, a very good thing. We had 1.7 billion liabilities the previous year, and we've dropped that to 1.5. And this is attributable to an increased delivery on the contractual obligations. Again, showing that we are delivering, we are doing the work that we're supposed to do, and because of that, our liabilities have been going down. Cash on hand has decreased as well by 35%. Again, just to show that we are not holding on cash. So we're using the cash for what it's meant to be used for. And our outflows to fund infrastructure, we are funding the platforms, we are funding the researchers, we are funding the science engagement, and because of that, our cash has actually reduced, which also demonstrates the move from the days of COVID, where probably a few of these things could not move. So, honorable members, this slide just gives you a pretty short snapshot of how we've been performing financially. I'm just going to show this in the numbers, but I'm not going to go to the numbers. I will take this as a read. Maybe one key part here to show is just that the accumulated surplus during the course of the year was 10 million rands, which was committed. So it's not money that was surplus. It was surplus because it was not paid on time. But that was a very good aspect to see that we use the money for what it was intended for. When you look into the income trends, and I will talk very briefly on just a few points here. So the total income, as I've mentioned in the overview slide, increased by 4.8%, which is a good component. But the sundry income increased by 18%. This was largely because of the increasing interest rates. Other contracts income decreased from 351 million to 267. But this was again attributable to the delay in the transfer of funds from DHET for the Scarce Skills Development Fund. The funds were now received in April, which is something that we are going to count for in this year. The DSI contracts, and we're very much appreciative, increased by 8%. Parliamentary grants only increased nominally by 4%. And that's something that we've been, again, singing or crying about for a very long time, saying that we just need to ensure that, we continue to invest more in science. So an increase of 4% basically just sort of keep us exactly where we were, which then shows that we're not necessarily, in fact, it's even lower than the inflation slightly. I won't touch on the expenditure trends, but our trends for expenditure mimic our income because we're trying to use all the resources for the science system. CapEx did decrease by 73 million rands due to some lag in the completion of the SKA fiber and the work that related to the SAFE project at Timber Labs, which has now since been launched. So just to give you a sense, this is just a key ratio slide, just giving a summary, and I think I've spoken to a number of these aspects. Just one part here to highlight is the fact that our parliamentary grant as a percentage of total income is hovering around 20%. So we have PG sitting at about 21% during the course of this year under review, which again is something that we are engaging with the DSI to see how we can improve on this allocation. So just to get into the last slide, this is the second last slide. We had an unqualified audit opinion with a clean award, something that's very commendable. So thanks to the team, thanks to the CFO, thanks to everyone in the organization for ensuring that we have good governance in place and things are operating and we follow our policies. We also have managed to maintain a clean audit outcome for the past 3 years. So this is something that, again, it shows that it's not just a once in a lifetime kind of activity, but it's something that we continuously do, and we maintain our systems and ensure that there's control systems and people follow those. Good internal control systems are implemented and are working. We have a healthy going concern position for the organization with sound financial disciplines, as you've seen. We did not have any irregular expenditure. We did not have any fruitless or wasteful expenditure during the course of the year. But one thing that I just want to emphasize here is that we also managed to move our BE level to level 2 rating, which the year 2022 we were at level 4, and year 2020 we're at level 7. So you can see the speed at which we've been focusing and moving this aspect of broad-based Black economic empowerment. So a level 2 is highly commendable, and a lot of effort has been put in ensuring that we are putting things in control. We are looking into where we are buying our things. We are looking at who we are hiring and so forth. So the key part is we are trying to ensure that good governance and good audit outcome are maintained. So in closing, honorable members, the NRF will continue to deliver on the following key priorities. One, we will continue to advance innovation through the translation of research outputs into new and improved products and services, because we believe that the science system is at the corner, at the pillar, at the center of innovation. If we really want to address issues of joblessness and so on, we have to ensure that science is well positioned to deliver on that. We are going to use the national facilities to deliver high-tech, world-class infrastructure, as I've emphasized, and this is a continuation of the work that we're already doing. And I believe that we need to put more effort in getting, very good skills that can put us on the forefront, because it's through this that the relevance of South Africa will continue rising. We'll continue optimizing the portfolio of partnerships for more focus on growing industry partnerships. I've mentioned the example with Sasol, but we have many, many other private sector partnerships that we are working with on a number of aspects, and we'll continue growing this component. We'll continue embedding engaged research within the knowledge enterprise, because we believe that community has to be fully involved in the science. They must understand science, they must be educated about science, and we'll continue doing that. We'll continue to prioritize the appointments in the designated groups. We understand the scarcity of the skills in the labor space, but one thing that you can take from us is our commitment to supporting the people who are living with disability, both within the staff and also within the NSI. The beneficiaries of our grants, people that we are funding, people who are using our research infrastructure, we always have this commitment to say, let's make sure that we are inclusive and everyone can enjoy the benefit of science, but also anyone or everyone can be involved in the production of knowledge outputs that science can offer. The current resources for delivery of the impactful human capacity development and research outputs are spent well, as I've mentioned, as you've seen, but it remains a very big gap in our space. We maintain that the science system is not well funded. We have a very big gap across, researchers who are doing very good science that we just cannot fund because there's no money. We have students in the same space. We have, a lot of gaps that one can think of and say, look at what we are missing out. Only if we had enough funds to invest in these people, South Africa was going to be in a better space. And lastly, we'll continue to maintain the good governance and ensure that the clean audit outcomes continue coming throughout. So we'll make sure that while we're delivering, while we are focusing on our mandate, we'll ensure that we do that following all the laws and following all our policies. So with this, honorable members, allow me to thank you for our time and also thank the staff of the NRF for their commitment during this year that was not the easiest of them all, but they have helped us in achieving a very good performance for the organization. Thank you, and let me hand over back to the chairperson of the board.
Honorable Chair, allow me to express my appreciation to the CEO for delivering the presentation on all our behalf, but to also thank the staff of the NRF across all the different entities, different parts of the entity for the work that they've done in the past year that we are reporting and the achievements that were reported today. It's also very impressive, and it makes us really happy as the board to see the level and quality of financial governance that we are able to see at the NRF, and that is really credit to the team, the executive, and all the people that they work with. So we just want, as the board, to record our appreciation for this. Honorable Chair, we are also concerned about the situation that we are entering in terms of financial austerities. As you can see from the trends, the NRF is financially just recovering from the COVID dip that we all experienced. And we are hoping that we can be able to survive this coming months and years of austerities as in order to keep the national system of innovation and the science system elevated. We have seen how the science in South Africa has managed to impact not only the country but also the world in terms of its quality. And this comes from not only investments in the research and the science projects, but also extensive investments in people that are doing the research, but as well as investments in the places where we do research. It matters where people are located, what facilities they have, and what resources they have, what training they have. So we are hoping to really continue to build this landscape, and we view the challenge of the sort of polycrisis that we are experiencing in the country and globally as a challenge to science to come up with innovations that can essentially foster solutions. As you can see with the sort of collaborations we are forming with the private sector in order to come up with solutions around energy and others. And it is our hope that the NRF can continue to have the support of its executive authority as well as of this committee in order to advance the mission and the mandate that it has been given. Over to you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much to colleagues from the NRF, to the Chair who heard your concerns, and the CEO as well. I'd like to then hand over to colleagues made it just in time in terms of the time allocated for each presentation. So we are on schedule in terms of the time we have. So at this point, I'd like to hand over to Dr. Lubisi, the chairperson of the board of the HSRC, together with Prof. Musweta, the CEO.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and members of the Portfolio Committee, colleagues from the DSI, the NRF, the HSRC, and the CSIR. I greet you this morning, and we thank you for the opportunity to present our annual report. Chairperson, we are joined by the entire executive of the HSRC this morning. A year ago, this time, Chairperson, as we appeared before this committee, the board noted with great concern the continuing regression in the HSRC's audit outcomes over the previous 3 years, from a clean audit to an unqualified audit with findings to a qualified audit. And we resolved to do what was necessary to turn the negative trend around. The board subsequently made a commitment at the time to implement the AG's recommendations as outlined in the budget review and recommendations report for 2021-2022, which called for the board to, 1, ensure that consequence management is implemented for all transgressions, 2, track the audit action plan to ensure that the HSRC can accurately determine and record the leave liability, and 3, take action to resolve the identified material irregularity, prevent any further financial losses, and ensure appropriate consequence management and measures to prevent similar instances in the future. We implemented and monitored our mitigation plan in response to these commitments with determination. And I'm pleased that they've yielded the desired results. 51 instances of irregular expenditure were investigated and consequence management principles were implemented before being submitted to the National Treasury for condonation. In May 2023, the National Treasury responded during August 2023, and we are about to fully engage with those responses at our upcoming meetings in October and November this year. Indications are that the National Treasury will by and large ask the board to consider the removal of irregular expenditure that is not condoned by themselves. The Audit and Risk Committee will make its recommendations to the board in this regard once the Treasury responses have been fully considered. No new cases of irregular expenditure were reported in the 2022-2023 audited financial statements by either management or the AG. The board has considered a first draft of a consequence management policy, which is being refined for implementation. Several steps were taken internally to tighten the reconciliation and reporting structures of the leave provision. Improved controls in this area ensured that the opening balance for leave accruals were reflected accurately when the audit commenced, and misstatements of the previous year were not repeated. The board's actions to address the identified material irregularity are ongoing. Firstly, a voluntary disclosure agreement was signed between the HSRC and the South African Revenue Service on the 19th of January 2023, in terms of which the capital debt amount of 6.5 million and interest of 2.6 million, leading to a total amount of 9.1 million, was paid to SARS. No penalties were imposed, and the SARS commissioner stated in the agreement not to pursue any criminal prosecution for any statutory offense under the Tax Act and or related common law offense in respect of the disclosed default. Secondly, a process of recovery of the capital debt amount commenced in November 2022. As at the end of September 2023, a mere 10 months later, 63.4% had been recovered. 1.1% was written off as being estates of deceased colleagues, and 35.5% was outstanding, mainly from former employees, some of whom have retired and have little or no sustainable income. Thirdly, an external service provider was employed to conduct a forensic investigation into the events leading to the material irregularity. The report did not produce any disciplinary charge sheet or reflect existing grounds for laying criminal charges. It makes several recommendations which the board will engage with fully for management to craft an implementation plan. The board will also consider at that time how to deal appropriately with the potential fruitless and wasteful expenditure of 2.6 million rands incurred because of the interest levied by SARS. And fourthly, an independent service provider has been appointed in the meantime to verify the correctness of all tax codes and the internal auditor performed a review of the payroll configuration that was concluded in February this year. We report regularly to the AG on our progress regarding these commitments, and those that have not been fully addressed are in progress. We are confident as the board that the HSRC is clawing back and making satisfactory progress in turning around the negative audit trend that we saw in the previous years. We fully intend to build and improve on the current unqualified audit opinion to avoid potential findings as well. In this spirit, we again commit to the committee and to the AG that the HSRC board, with the support of the Audit and Risk Committee, will track the audit action plan to ensure the appropriate action is taken to resolve the internal control deficiencies noted during the 2022-2023 audit report. And the board finally will continue taking appropriate actions to address the material irregularity fully and implement consequence management where required. This includes recovering the remaining potential losses, determining whether recovery is not feasible by conducting a cost-benefit analysis, and taking appropriate action under the PFMA when recovery is not possible, especially relating to the interest paid. With your permission, Chairperson, the CEO, Professor Sarah Mosweta, and her management team will provide the committee with an overview of the HSRC's performance for the 2022-2023 financial year. I thank you.
Chair, allow me, Yakomin, can I share from my side? Good morning, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson of the Board, Honorable members, members of the Board of HSRC present, colleagues. It is indeed an honor to present the 2022-2023 annual report of the HSRC. As the chairperson of the board has alluded, I think for us, this annual report 2022-2023 as the executive of HSRC, for us it represents 4 key developments in the life of the HSRC. The first one is indeed progress and improvement on particularly on our governance structures and processes. 2, accountability. The third one is around financial sustainability of our organization. Finally, and which is what brings all of us here as HSRC, we have indeed are indeed proud to present this annual report that indicates our work that represents high impact in terms of our research being relevant and visible in our country, in the continent, and the globe. In terms of this presentation, I want to touch on our mandate, our performance overview in the last five years, our achievements to date, our highlights, as well as just touch on our human resources, where we are at in terms of 2022-2023, our financial overview, as I've indicated. Again, the information in our annual report shows our financial sustainability. I also want to touch on the years that are coming, particularly starting with this year. What are the areas of focus as identified by the board and as will be executed, implemented by the executive team? Starting with our mandate, I think it is important that we don't, as HSRC of the 8 key priority areas, we don't just do research. We want to do relevant research, high impact research. This annual report attests to that. It is not just research for its own sake that we are engaged with as HSRC. It is research that also needs to inform policy. Not only inform policy, but we are engaged as HSRC, and the 2022-2023 annual report also indicates that we also monitored key policy developments and evaluated policy implementation of our country. Part of what we do as HSRC is to encourage robust debate on matters that affect our country as we also shape the future of our country, as we deal with the challenges of unemployment, inequality, poverty, as well as gender-based violence. We also are in the business as HSRC of building a research capacity and infrastructure for South Africa and in the African continent, a continent that we all belong to. And this is an area that is very critical for us, and it is an area that requires all of us to fully support, both financially and otherwise. And we come to this committee today also wanting to flag this particular issue around building research capacity, pleading and asking for the committee's support, as well as support in other areas as we endeavor to find further resources to meet this particular mandate of HSRC. The other mandate of HSRC is to support and build research collaboration. Indeed, research can't be just for HSRC. It has to be for the country. It has to be for the various government departments, the various government entities that need to use it. But also, we can only do credible research, relevant research, high impact research, if we also collaborate with our sister councils, as well as other entities such as the universities. The other key mandate and the annual report 2022-2023 speaks to this: research and analyzing developmental problems of this country. As I earlier indicated, the challenges of unemployment, particularly youth unemployment, particularly female unemployment, inequality, poverty, gender-based violence, and many other perils that affect us as a country, including climate change challenges. HSRC has been at it in 2022-2023 in fully realizing this particular mandate, in doing research, but also engaging with the broader communities in the country and the continent. The 6th mandate of our organization is to develop and make publicly available new data sets. Again, this speaks to us compiling and making sure that we have credible data sets in the organization, but those data sets should be used by our government, by other stakeholders and researchers to make sure that indeed our research remains relevant, but also it influences a policy. We are extremely proud as HSRC that we have done over the number of years, 20 years in particular, have been compiling data sets in the area of science and innovation, in the area of HIV and AIDS, in the area of South Africa's attitudes on various topics.
Prof Moseta, can I just ask that we just fix the slide a bit? If we can go to display settings, where you at the top there, towards the left of the screen.
It's on share mode from my side, and it's showing as display.
No, on the side it's not reflecting like that. There's a bar. I was following on my own slides, hence I didn't realize that your slides weren't reflecting.
Is that better?
No. There's a tab called display settings.
Apologies for that. Can you just give me 2 seconds?
There's a tab called display settings. We can see it on our side. If you go to that tab, it's at the top of the screen that you're currently sharing. There we go. That's perfect.
Thank you. Apologies for that. As we proceed, Honorable Member, can you just confirm that you are seeing the slide titled mandate?
Just the slide only. Yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. And I was on moving on from our mandate as the last one on number 8, that is developing a new and improved methodologies for use. And in the interest of time, I will move. For the year 2022-2023, I am pleased that the organization has achieved a 76% performance rate. Indeed, there are many targets in our annual report, if you peruse through it, that we have exceeded most of the targets that we have met. There are indeed, honorable members and colleagues, areas for improvement. And as the chairperson alluded to some of those challenges that we had experienced in 2022-2023 financial year, which was unprecedented in many ways, we will indeed seek to improve our performance from that 76, and it's 76%. Indeed, 76% is, I think, for the year that we've had, it is a big congratulations, I think, for me, for the team that has done exceptionally well under difficult conditions under the leadership of the board. Let me pause here and reflect on the 76% scorecard that has been achieved in 2022 and 23. And at HSRC, we talk about it as our LEAPS target. We want to talk about leadership in knowledge production, policy influence, partnership, transformed research capabilities, and this is the area where we need to do more and to do better as the organization. And sustainability, this is where we truly excel as an organization. These targets are linked directly to our mandate. If you link these targets, they link directly to our mandate. They speak directly to our mandate, and I want to then take them in part so that we understand where HSRC is at, where we have done very well, and where we do need to do to put in certain measures for improvement. On leadership, this is leadership in the knowledge production. These are the numbers of books that we need to publish, the number of journal articles that we need to publish. But more than just that, it is also we also are wanting to count, and we do deliberately count the number of individuals and that use our work, because as I said earlier on, as I was talking to our mandate, what is the point of us doing research that is not used, that does not influence public discourse, that also does not influence our policy outcomes as a country. So it is important for us to note that of the 5 of the 7 key indicators under this particular 5 of the 7 key targets have been met. We have slightly lagged in terms of journal publications for a variety of reasons. These are journal articles and journal publication world, which is has its own persona in many ways, and therefore there has been out of our control. I am pleased to to note that as this financial year, we have made marked improvements with some of the initiatives that we have brought in place and are bringing in place to ensure that this target, we meet this target, particularly that relates to journal publications by our own researchers. So that's on the leadership and production. Also noting, as I indicated earlier on, there are a number of indicators here where we have excelled and where we've exceeded our targets, including our planned targets for scholarly books for the year. We had planned to have eight books by HSRC. I'm pleased to announce to this committee, to this meeting, that we have achieved 15. We have achieved 15 of this target. Therefore, 15 scholarly books by HSRC, and that's where we've been spending our energies. We've also over exceeded on an indicator the number of scholarly books chapters published by HSRC researchers. We had planned for 48. Again, a resounding success by our researchers. We've achieved 88. Therefore, 88 scholarly book chapters have been published by our researchers. As I have indicated, we are indeed lagging in terms of peer-reviewed journal articles. It is, however, an ideal that I know that with the measures put in place, with the research committee of the board and the board's support, we will meet this target this financial year. Moving on to a policy influence. Policy influence for us means a monitoring policy, as well as ensuring that policy is implemented. I think here we have achieved this target. I am pleased that of the annual target of 12, we have engaged at a policy level. We have evaluated policies, and over 20 of the 12, 20 has been achieved, and it is a remarkable achievement. I think in future we should not only have 100%, we should have 120%, given that these targets that have been achieved have been also exceeded. Noting here particularly policy and influence on partnerships. Partnerships for us relates to the scientific community, relates to our civil society engagements, as well as government, and many other international institutions such as UNESCO and the European Commission. Again, here our researchers have been hard at it, and we have been doing what we needed to do in ensuring that we maximize on our partnerships, including South African partnerships. I must also add that our partnerships with universities and our sister councils have also been instrumental in ensuring that we speak with one voice in terms of eradicating our challenges, or tackling our challenges in this country. Chair, it is disappointing that this particular target is sitting where it is sitting. The next one on transformed research capabilities. This relates to a number of indicators. For example, the number of PhD trainees, and I want to zone in on this one, because PhD trainees and this particular target is not an internal one. It's rather who we recruit and train as part of our mandate. We can only train as many as we can, subject to resources. I think ours is a responsible one. We would not want to bring in PhD trainees here that we cannot afford to pay them a stipend as a living wage, as well as to pay for some of their fees. So for us, resources have been a challenge in meeting this particular target. We have put in place measures to meet this target this financial year by engaging with funding agencies of our government, including the National Skills Fund. chairperson of the portfolio committee and members of the portfolio committee, here is where we would also seek your support in ensuring that all young people who want to pursue their PhDs at HSRC, and indeed HSRC is a home that provides not just a stipend, but a holistic capacity development, including mentorship and training. All of that, honorable members, requires a lot of resources. We are embarking on that, and we are hoping that this particular target will be met. The last one that speaks to our mandate directly is our sustainability. And I'm very pleased that with all the efforts in our organization, we are at a point in the organization where we have achieved, at least in the 2022-2023 financial year, sustainable income streams. Funding remains a challenge indeed for the humanities and social sciences. For the Human Sciences Research Council is no exception. While we have achieved this income and we have achieved some sustainability, we are noting that most of this funding has come outside of our government and outside of the country, which poses a number of challenges for us that we have been able to navigate. However, we think that we need a better way of managing our resources in the country so that indeed the Humanities, Social Sciences, the Human Sciences Research Council is better funded to fulfill its mandate for the country, and that the mandate is not driven elsewhere. Safe to say, Chairperson, we are pleased on where we are, and we are going. I will reflect on that later on. In terms of achievement, as I've indicated, our scholarly books, book chapters, and cited publications, that has been going very, very, very well, Chairperson, and we have indeed exceeded to those targets in the 2022-2023 financial year. As also indicated, our collaborative projects with universities and science councils has also yielded positive results for us in influencing policy and the trajectory of our country. We do want to prioritize in this financial year, noting the gaps that we've identified in the 2022-2023 financial year. We want to prioritize our transformative agenda. And that remains important in ensuring that we are recruiting Black and female researchers in the organization, and also we ensure that as we recruit for PhDs capacity building, we also take our demographics and where we need to go as a country. More specifically, I want to note that for us, as I said, our research outputs have been growing and in remarkable ways. But I think for us, what is important in measuring impact is how many individuals use our research outputs. I'm very pleased that this financial year and over time we have been tracking this particular indicator, and indeed most individuals outside of this country and also internationally have been using our data sets, our research outputs, which is important because that research needs to get out there so that we do make that impact that we want, the research that is relevant, that is visible, that responds to the challenges of our country. This is a slide that shows how many of our outputs have been cited, and therefore again showing the relevance of our work. It is pleasing that this for us in the 2022-2023, as we've tracked over the past five years, that there has been marked improvements, and I think more needs to be done in terms of publicizing our work, ensuring that it is indeed relevant. Chair, you will note that for us in the research space, impact is measured retrospectively. So this data set refers to the work that we have done in 2022, 2023, however, with the outputs over a period of time. And this is where it also, the slide and the next one indicates that. For the financial year 2022-2023, we had identified a target of 165, I think, of citations of our articles being cited. The total at the bottom of that table shows where we are at in terms of 2023, meaning that we have met the target and we've also exceeded that target. Indeed, I think for us, the 5 years has been a 5 years of growth. The 2022-2023 financial year significantly shows that. Indeed, with areas of improvement that are required. As I said, our work is not only relevant in our countries, is largely relevant in our country, but is also relevant in many other parts of the world. I am pleased that our work resonates with our global south, our BRICS friends in India, precisely because our conditions, our shared mandate in the BRICS space will allow us to speak from the same data sets and allow that conversation at the BRICS space to flourish. More needs to be done, indeed, Chairperson and honorable members, in terms of our outreach in our continent, and the work that we are engaged with now with the board in thinking through one of our entities, AISA, the Africa Institute, is precisely around this area around Africa relevance. Let me also just with the many highlights that I can also give for this duration of this presentation. Let me just highlight a few. Our work in the election space over 20 years doing research in partnership with the Electoral Commission of South Africa continued in the 2022-2023 financial year, and indeed as we speak now, this work continues, and it is important that it continues. Our work with and focusing particularly on women, youth, people with disability, engaging with different stakeholders, with different universities in thinking through the challenges that youth are presented with, not only around unemployment, but also around skills and development. I think that work, we are very proud of it, and it is contained. Most information is contained in our annual report. On our work in terms of influencing policy around disability, we are pleased that in the financial year 2022-2023, we did indeed host our inaugural National Disability Awareness conference right here in Pretoria, which yielded great results, and I think it's something that we want to continue doing in terms of keeping this discussion in the public discourse around disability. I think it is something that we want to drive with this financial year, indeed noting some of our challenges around costs of funding. Finally, in terms, maybe the second last highlight for us is around our work with young people and in the continent. Our Africa Youth Graduates and Scholars Conference continues, and I think some of the great ideas that are coming out of those discussions with young people from Kenya, from Mali, from Nigeria, in dialogue with our South Africans, I think is heartwarming, but it also says something about where we are taking our continent with young people at the helm of these discussions. Our work on science and innovation, R&D survey results were published, and this is important for us because it speaks to the year 2020-2021, published in 2022-23. I think it is important that we engage with this sets of surveys. As I said, I think it is there's no point in us producing such data sets and they're not used in terms of policy formulation. But it is also our responsibility to publicize most of all of this work, so that it speaks again to the challenges facing our country around our GDP, our inequality levels that are, I think, disappointing. Finally, on our BRICS mandate, we are proud. One of the 15 books that I mentioned, one of the 15 books is on BRICS. There's limited information and credible information, scholarly information on BRICS. Sometimes also unprogressive BRICS scholarship is also purported out there. I think the role of HSRC is to produce such progressive publications. Chair, that's on the research front. I want to move on to administration, and again in the interest of time, and acknowledge that we have had with funding. We've also had large-scale research projects that have ensured that we achieve our sustainability, financial sustainability, but it has also meant that we needed to attract new staff members and researchers. We've been prudent in this regard, Chair, given that our vacancy rates have been low. Yes, they need to be filled, taking care of our employment equity targets. However, Chair, I think given the mandate, the number of employees in the organization will will tell you how engaged we all are, and sometimes stretched too thin. But we are here for HSRC, and I think the staff have done remarkably well, especially given that in 2022-2023 there was only 391 staff members in the building. In terms of equity profile, I think the majority of staff are female and African, and for us and in the HR space, it is important that we also make sure that everyone is upskilled, but also that the demographics also change in line with our BEE targets. Safe to say that has also, we have seen progress in that regard. Chair, that's on our HR and administration part. I want to move on to our financial overview. First, present our audit outcomes, and then briefly talk about our financial status as in 2022-2023. I want to particularly emphasize where we are in terms of financial sustainability when it comes to our annual financial statement. As our chair has noted, there has been progress, Chair, and thanks to your leadership and the committee in wanting accountability, transparency, and ensuring that we use our limited resources wisely. We have an unqualified audit opinion, no material findings, and the material statements that were identified have been resolved and were corrected. Chair, for me, what was heartwarming was reading the AGSA management report, where they indeed the outcome is noted as unqualified. However, for us, when we were reading the AGSA management report, we were comforted when the AGSA also noted that there has been overall improvement in the quality of this submitted financial statement, but more importantly, that there's been significant improvements noted in procurement, contract management, consequence management. And indeed, as management, through the leadership of our audit and risk committee, and the chairperson is in the meeting, as well as our board led by our chairperson, that management, we were able to implement controls to ensure compliance with applicable legislation. Here is, I think, a snapshot on where the improvements have largely been. If you note 2021, 2022, we were sitting with material findings on consequence management. We were also sitting with material findings on our annual financial statements. Chair, in 2023, 2022, 2023, we have made significant improvements in the procurement contract as well as consequence management. We have made the corrected the misstatement in our annual financial statement, and this is where the unqualified comes from, and it's not clean. We endeavor to do things differently this financial year, Chair, and you will see a marked improvement. Chair, in terms of where we are now, I think there hasn't been any major differences from last year. For us, it is important that we keep this financial stability for the organization led by our board. Here's where I think it is also important for us to note we have accumulated a surplus, and that surplus, Chair, we have also applied to National Treasury to use this surplus for the business of HSRC, noting that most of the surplus comes from external research contracts that we have generated, and therefore it does not come from the parliamentary grant. We already have plans to use this surplus, Chair, should the National Treasury and we doubt that National Treasury will take the surplus from us. We will plead for your support in this regard. Chair, I think this is just a snapshot, and maybe the next slide will give you a better indication of where we were and where we are now as an organization in terms of our revenue. You will note that in terms of our research revenue, 2022-2023 was an unprecedented year. Even since 2019-2020, our external other income really shot up in 2022-2023. It was indeed a busy year for the organization, and that's where we are in terms of parliamentary grant. Chair, it has slightly improved in 2022-2023. We are hoping that in subsequent financial years, yes, we are noting cost containment, that this parliamentary grant could also possibly increase so that we are able to fulfill our mandate, especially the transformation and mandate of our country. Chair, the research cost will obviously be high given the nature of our business, but also note in the previous slide where we have a lot of contracts that have come in and therefore need to fulfill the contract obligations for us, and therefore our research cost will be high. This is nothing to worry about. I think for research costs and staffing costs will remain high. I think for us it will be a problem if the administrative expenses, for example, were higher than staff cost or even research cost, given what we are about as an organization. In terms of expenditure, Chair, again, related to the previous slide, you will note that salaries account for 62% of our budget, 36% is goods and services, including field work. Chairperson, that's the business that we are in now. This ratio is for us a healthy Chair, given our mandate requiring a lot of individuals that need to do the research and also doing the thinking work. Again, Chair, this is just an indication of where we are as an organization in terms of expenditure. I just wanted to just show in terms of graphic representation and paying particular attention to our research revenue. We have outdone ourselves, Chair. We just need to temper it a bit so that we focus on fulfilling the contractual obligations. But Chair, I think this slide says something about how we have pursued our sustainable financial sustainability. It is important that we keep at it. However, it will be great, Chair, if our parliamentary grant could also grow at a particular rate, indeed to avert the problem of funders dictating the mandate of HSRC, but by default, the research mandate of our country. This is the second last slide, Chair. I think as part of my presentation of our annual report and as directed by the board, the executive team, management team, wants to focus on these 6 priorities moving forward, having learned from 2022-2023. Firstly, our transformative research, prioritizing high impact, policy relevant research. Our Africa-centric approach is important, both in terms of direct research, but also outputs and stakeholder relations, advancing transformation, making sure that capacity building happens, that we recruit and we expand our internship program. Again, Chair, I want to emphasize this point. We can't achieve this if we don't have enough resources in the organization. I think for the 2022-2023 financial year, we've done remarkably well with the limited resources that we have, and we're making plans so that we address, we focus on this particular third issue. The last 3 speak to our stakeholder relations. Stakeholder relations remain important, particularly in the continent as well as our BRICS Plus, given that we have new members in the BRICS family. I think consolidating those relations for the good of the country and for research links for HSRC will be important. Good governance, keep at the unqualified audit and do better. And I said unqualified, I know that the board has given us a clear mandate on how to make improvements so that we go back to our clean audit days. Lastly, leveraging our resources and funding limited as they are. Chair, finally, let me thank you particularly for your leadership, firm leadership, let me add, firm leadership in ensuring that we are accountable as an organization, and these results, particularly on the audit front, would not have been where the organization would not be where it is at the moment and reporting firmly. So if it wasn't for your leadership, as well as the portfolio committee, the Department of Science and Innovation remains our first priority, but also first anchor when we are faced with challenges. And indeed, the firm support and leadership of the DDGs and the DDGs is present here, as well as the DG. The HSRC board, I think from management side, from EXCO executive team, we want to thank our chairperson and the board for getting us to this point. It was difficult, chairperson of the board, and we are here. And from me personally, I want to thank the HSRC management and staff for all the hard work and this annual report. I am honored to be presenting it on your behalf as management, from management and staff. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Prof. Moswetsa. Can I check if the chair, WBC, is there anything you'd like to add?
Chairperson, thank you very much. We wish to thank the HSRC management for preparing this very useful and informative presentation. As the CEO indicated, ours really is to ensure that we produce relevant, impactful social sciences and humanities research, which will address the social and economic conditions of our people in this country, our region, our continent, and particularly the global south. We are beginning to make clear impact, and we are beginning to be more recognized. The chairperson would recall, and members would recall, that His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa entrusted the HSRC, working with the School of Government, for instance, to do a skills audit on the big infrastructure departments in the country, as well as the big metros, in order to improve the capacity of the South African state to deliver on the promise of the Constitution of the Republic. We are working, for instance, also with the Zondo Commission in a project called The Future of Democracy in South Africa, and we are producing policy briefs in order to guide and track the implementation of the findings of the Zondo Commission, as particularly adopted by Parliament and the Executive. So we are playing in the policy space in a big way. We are looking currently at participating as well in the 30-year review of our democracy since 1994 to 2024, to look at the achievements of this country, as well as what needs to happen to take the country to greater heights in the next 10 years, in the next decade, the fourth decade of freedom. In that way, Chairperson, I would end it there so that we keep within the time. But thank you very much for your own personal support, the support of the members of the Portfolio Committee. We thank you also to all our partners in the National System of Innovation for working with us to reach the goals and mandates that have been set for us in our legislation and in our policy. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Prof. Lubisi. I'd like to, at this point in time, move over to the CSIR with the board chairperson, Mr. Jahana, and the CEO, Dr. Dlamini.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm here with the CEO and his team. And CEO, we have a presentation to flight that we have shared with the committee. But thank you for having us. I will open up once he's put up his slide, and then he will run through with his team the full presentation. Let's go to the first slide, CEO. But the main one. So we'll talk through.
Can you see the presentation?
Yeah, I can see it. Let's go to the second slide.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair and members. We're here to present the results of the work done by CSIR, but I'm just giving a high-level opening commentary as a chair, and the management team will run the detail. Some of the key issues I want to highlight to you and the members of the committee is that the work of the CSIR is underpinned by its mandate, and we have a renewed focus on driving industrial development with a big focus on impact, the impact of science and innovation on the ordinary people's life. And whilst obviously we remain focused on driving impact and still focusing on long-term growth and sustainability of the organization. I'm not going to read slide by slide, but I'm going to highlight, that is topic by topic, I'm going to highlight key aspects. The performance of the organization is very strong, and we're still delivering to the mandate. 90% of the KPIs on 2022-2023 reporting year were met, and some of them were exceeded. So the focus of the board is on good corporate governance. We achieved a clean audit again as a CSIR, audited by the Auditor General, which is a good sense of comfort that the organization is well run when the AG gives us a clean audit outcome. Obviously, the challenges we're facing, because CSIR does generate its own revenues, but the slowdown in the economy is impacting our turnover, especially with regards to the private sector clients. So we are not immune to the shocks in the economies, they do impact our revenue streams. This is what we wanted to highlight. Obviously, energy security impacting operations of the CSIR, driving costs up. So again, we're taking pain from that area, given the energy crisis we face as a country, which government is dealing with. Obviously, one of the key things is around building a strong culture of performance and good governance. And the new board has committed itself to supporting the organization make an even greater impact, particularly at grassroots level and SMEs. We have been talking about great work of CSIR doing in scientific discovery and innovation, but the big focus, we're saying, whilst we want to be world beaters in that domain, we want to see the fruits of science and innovation falling in the hands of the ordinary people. And that talks to translating the scientific innovation to have a bigger impact on SMEs as they are the growth engines of the economy. How do you do that translation without impacting the scientific journey, that the orbit, the domain of scientific discovery? So this is what the board and management are navigating. Furthermore, the CSR is well positioned to attract more opportunities and address problems in the continent. We think that with what is inside the organization, there are big opportunities to transform society and also drive a national hegemony across the province, that is across the continent, but also compete fairly well with our global peers. So, Chair, this is kind of the preamble. So if I highlight anything, good governance, performing very well, challenge with energy, the economic scenario or situation impacting revenue streams. Obviously, we compete for skills in the private sector. We have to remain focused and agile organization, but also be able to reward our employees better to remain competitive. The big focus is in translating science into much more grassroots impact level. How do we make science, the fruits of science, to fall in the hands of the ordinary people? This is what the board is navigating with management over the next a year or so. Thank you very much. I think, Dr. Dlamini, I hand over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chakane. Chair, I'm going to cut my video because I struggle a little bit with bandwidth. So please, if you allow me to do that. But I also want to greet you and greet all the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, the colleagues from the CSIR and the DSI and other science councils who are present. It is a privilege for me to present the 2022-23 annual financial report on behalf of the CSIR. I think the chairperson of the board has very clearly set out the tone of the performance of the CSR in the past financial year. My intention in the next couple of minutes that we've been given will be to build on his message and to color in the rest of the picture that he has so eloquently painted for all of us. These are the points I'm going to cover. I'll talk about the mandate and strategic focus of the CSR, and then move very quickly then to reflect on our performance in the past financial year. Our work is guided by the mandate of the CSIR, as the chairperson has already indicated. And I would like to start there. I think our mandate is very clear in terms of what is it that we are expected to do as an organization, that we perform directed multidisciplinary research and technological innovation, which is intended to foster industrial and scientific development. And we've emphasized this over the past 5 years, that our work needs to translate into meaningful impact in industry, in government, as well as in society. And the examples that we will share with the members of the committee today would perhaps highlight or indicate how we are delivering on this aspect of our mandate. But that ultimately everything that we do as a CSIR ought to contribute towards improving the quality of life of the people of South Africa. Of course, we don't do this alone. We do this in cooperation with partners in the public as well as the private sector. And we'll try in the examples and the highlights that we share with you this morning to illustrate how we are delivering on this point. We have translated this mandate into a vision and a mission statement, and our vision is that we are accelerators of socioeconomic prosperity in South Africa through leading innovation. And how we achieve this vision is by collaboratively innovating and localizing technologies whilst providing knowledge solutions for the inclusive and sustainable advancement of industry as well as society. I think we realize the role that we play in terms of innovation, but that our role is not only limited to that. We need to inform policy and provide knowledge that guides decision-making by government as well as industry. We are guided by a set of values which translate into the culture that we wish to create in our organization. And we have implemented a number of initiatives in this regard to ensure that these values are embedded into the fabric of the life of the CSIR. Our values are excellence. We strive for excellence in everything that we do. We are a people-centered organization, and this comes out in the way that we engage with each other, but also how we engage with our partners. We conduct ourselves with integrity in everything that we do. And then lastly, we value collaboration. We are keen to learn from one another and collaborate across the organization, but also, more importantly, with our partners outside of the CSIR. Our strategy, which we adopted in 2020, has as its intention to achieve the following issues. One is that we wish to contribute to the inclusive growth of the South African economy, and of course, in so doing, grow the business of the CSIR. We want to contribute towards the sustainability and competitiveness of South African enterprises through the intellectual property that we generate within the organization. We want to create impact through the commercialization of our intellectual property, and by so doing, demonstrate the relevance of science, engineering, and technology as a key catalyst for industrial development and economic growth in South Africa. To ensure that we deliver on the intentions of our strategy, we have set ourselves 5 strategic objectives. The first strategic objective is that we wish to conduct research and development of transformative technologies and accelerate the diffusion of our research and development outcomes into the areas where we create impact. We want to improve the competitiveness of high-impact industries to support South Africa's reindustrialization. And we do this, of course, by collaborating with partners, by developing, localizing, as well as implementing technology, particularly in industry. We want to drive socio-economic transformation through research, development, and innovation that supports the development of a capable state. Strategic objective number 2 and strategic objective number 3 are really at the heart of what the CSR does, and are really at the heart of how we create impact as an organization. Then the last 2 strategic objectives are more internally focused, one being about building and transforming human capital and infrastructure, which are really the critical resources that we require to do the work that we need to do in the organization. Our business is about people, and therefore we need to ensure that we invest in people. But people alone, without the requisite infrastructure to undertake research and development and innovation, will be insufficient. Then the last one is about diversification of our income, maintaining financial sustainability, and ensuring that as an organization, we continue to conduct ourselves in a manner which is supportive of good corporate governance. I think for the remainder of the presentation, I will then focus on how the CSIR has fared in terms of our performance with regards to the achievement of these strategic objectives and relating that to the targets that we had set for ourselves for the previous financial year. But before I do that, let me perhaps just at a very high level, and maybe in a quantitative way, reflect on how the CSIR has performed over the past 4 years. If you look at our parliamentary grant, for instance, this has reduced or declined in real terms by 2%. And one understands the rationale behind this, given the fiscal pressure that we are facing as a country. But of course, we would like to see a reversal of this trend in terms of our parliamentary grant. Because in the long term, this poses a threat in terms of our ability to sustain the capabilities that we have within the organization. The number of publications has declined by 9%. This is in line with our strategy of moving from research production more towards research translation and impact, which is a key component of our new strategy. Our work which supports policy development is unfortunately declined by 42%. The number of patents granted has reduced by 10%, and our income from the public sector has reduced by 2% in comparison to the other income streams that we have within the organization. On the positive side, our total income has grown by 4% over the past 4 years. The number of priority patent applications has increased, has doubled. The number of technology demonstrators has increased by 68%. The license agreements that we've signed with private sector companies has also doubled over this period. The number of technologies that we have localized has also increased by 129%. Joint technology development agreements with industry has grown by 61%. And this is all in keeping with the intention of our strategy, which is really about research translation, but also about growing the work that we are doing in terms of supporting industrial development, whilst not negating our responsibility in terms of supporting the development of a capable state. And hence, if you look at the number of standards that we've contributed towards, this has grown by 40%. The projects that we've executed in support of the development of a capable state has grown by 94%. Our international income and private sector income have both grown by 4% over this period. And the ring-fence grants that we have received from the Department of Science and Innovation has also grown by 48% over this period. Now, if I move on then to how we have performed in terms of our strategic objectives over the past financial year, starting off with the first strategic objective of conducting research, development, and innovation of transformative technologies and accelerating their diffusion. The intent behind this objective is to ensure that whilst we are putting an emphasis on research translation, impact, and implementation, we don't lose sight of the fact that we need to continuously invest in the development of capabilities that would ensure that the CSIR and, of course, the country remains relevant in the future. So here, we look at publication equivalence, and we've exceeded our target by 31% with regards to this. The number of new priority patent applications, we've exceeded our target by 14%. And similarly, also in terms of the number of new patents granted, a significant improvement with regards to this. Now, this target is a very difficult target to predict because a lot of this depends on the outcome of the examination process for the priority patent application that we filed in the past. The number of new technology demonstrators we've also exceeded our target by 15%. An area of improvement is with regards to the number of technology license agreements that we sign with industry. Here, we did not achieve our target. And an initiative that we have been working on, which we are launching, in fact, next week, is the creation of an enterprise, which will be a subsidiary of the CSIR, whose sole purpose will be to focus on the commercialization of CSIR intellectual property. We hope that through this new mechanism, we'll be able to see significant improvements in terms of our ability to license intellectual property coming out of the organization. But at least 10 license agreements were signed in the previous year with the private sector companies. If we move to some examples in terms of the work that we do in support of the strategic objective, of course, a much more extensive set of highlights is included in the annual report. think the first example that we have here is about the work we are doing around biodegradable mulch films that we are testing with a partner. Now, this work comes from the fact that green chemistry is an area of research which is emerging and rapidly growing. CSIR, of course, has an active interest in this area, and we have a number of projects that are intended to support the development of green chemistry within South Africa. One of these projects is the one that we highlight in this example, where we are looking at the development of biodegradable mulch film. Now, mulch films are used to modify soil during the planting of seeds. So they are used to regulate temperature. They limit things like weed growth. They prevent moisture loss, and of course, improve the yield in terms of the crops that are being planted. Now, the big problem with that is that the conventional materials, which are polyester-based materials that are used as mulch film, end up remaining on the field after the crops have been cultivated, have been harvested. And of course, this contributes towards the negative environmental impact of agriculture. And of course, it increases the cost of production for the particular sector. So through the work that we are doing in partnership with the university in Nigeria, funded by the UK-based Sustainable Manufacturing and Environmental Pollution Program, we hope to develop films that are biodegradable. And through this work, this will contribute towards, of course, reducing the environmental impact of agriculture, but also to reduce the cost of production for this particular sector. The second example that we have relates to work that we are doing to improve the performance of our logistics sector. This work uses our heavy vehicle simulator, which is a technology that we developed in the 70s, in fact, and we've licensed to different parts across the world. In fact, the company that holds the license for this is based in the US, called Dynatest, and they manufacture and sell these units, as I said, in different parts across the world. What this technology does is that it enables one to do what's called accelerated pavement testing of innovative materials that can be used in road construction. So we've developed materials and technologies which include geogrids, modified emulsions, as well as biocimentation, which we've subjected to the accelerated pavement testing capabilities that we have within the country. What we have seen is that through the use of these materials, there's a potential to reduce the cost of road construction by up to 50%, whilst at the same time improving the pavement life by up to 90%, which of course will have a significant impact in terms of the sustainability of our road infrastructure and the cost of logistics within South Africa. I'm sure all of us have experienced the deterioration in terms of our road infrastructure within South Africa. And we hope that through this intervention, we can begin to make an impact with regards to that. If I move on to the second strategic objective, which is really at the heart of our new strategy, about the work that we do to improve the competitiveness of high-impact industries in supporting South Africa's reindustrialization. Here, I'm pleased to report, Chairperson, that we achieved all our key performance indicators targets in this strategic objective. We exceeded the number of localized technologies. We exceeded our target in terms of the number of joint technology development agreements being implemented for industry. And of course, we supported 116 small and medium enterprises over the last financial year. Maybe just to move then to some highlights also with regard to this area. And the first one is work that we are doing with Eskom to support them with the repair and maintenance of low pressure steam turbines. Here we are using our laser-based technology, which has enabled us to reduce the cost as well as the turnaround time for the repair of these turbines when they come out of service. Now, this is a very significant milestone, both for the CSIR and ESCOM, in the sense that working with ESCOM, this took many years, but working with ESCOM, we've been able to develop a qualified laser-based process for the repair of rotating equipment. And we're looking at opportunities, of course, to apply this technology to support other sectors of the South African economy where rotating equipment is utilized. The second example is work that we did together with UNDP, United Nations Development Program, as well as a local private sector company called ETNOT, where we have supported a number of small and medium enterprises to roll out broadband infrastructure in rural communities as townships. I think through this initiative, we have created 60 easy access public hotspots. We've seen 1,600 users, average number of users per day. 52 rural households have been connected to the network. We've created 13 youth and women-owned small and medium enterprises who are operators of the broadband infrastructure that has been deployed. We've used our technology called TV White Spaces to support the development, to support this particular initiative. And of course, we've also created 20 jobs as a result of this particular intervention. If I move to the third strategic objective, which is about the work that we do to support the development of a capable state. Again, here at Chairperson, I'm pleased to announce, to inform the members of the committee that we have also achieved all our targets with regards to this performance indicator. And we've exceeded the number of the contribution that we've made in terms of national policy development. We've delivered in terms of the number of standards that we've delivered or contributed towards, as well as the number of projects that we have executed in support of a capable state. We have also exceeded the target with regards to that. If I move to some highlights in this particular area, in terms of the work that we've done, I think the first one is work that we did with the Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport, where we've developed an app which you can download from iStore or Google App Store. And what this app does is that it allows the citizens of Gauteng to report potholes as well as malfunctioning traffic lights, as well as monitor the progress in terms of the extent to which the issues that have been reported are being addressed. It really creates an environment of active citizenry. But of course, it supports the government in terms of being responsive to areas where there are challenges with regards to potholes as well as traffic lights. Ever since we've launched this app, we've seen that the number of downloads of the app is at about 10,000, and the number of potholes reported via the app is 22,000, and the number of potholes repaired is just over 1,000. The second example is work that we did with the South African National Defence Force, where we've supported the SANDF in the development of new camouflage uniform as well as combat boots to ensure that, firstly, the uniforms that are used by our men and women in service addresses the issue of gender, but also is suitable for use in diverse operational environments where our SANDF gets deployed. A particular feature with the new boat is that it is able to give our soldiers relative comfort in wet as well as in very dry conditions where they are deployed. If I move on to the fourth strategic objective, which is about building and transforming human capital as well as infrastructure. Here, we did not achieve our target in terms of the size of the set base, even though our set base grew by 4% compared to the previous financial year. And our ability to grow the set base is tightly linked to our ability to secure income. I think later on, I'll indicate that we did not achieve our total income target. And hence, of course, we needed to ensure that we don't grow our fixed costs when the income is not growing, to ensure that we can cover the fixed costs that we have created for the organization. Despite that, we've still managed to meet our targets in terms of transformation of the set base. If you look, for instance, in terms of our percentage of Black set and female set, we have achieved our targets with regards to this and showed an improvement in comparison to the previous financial year. The number of chief researchers in the organization is a very important indicator for us of the quality of the work that we're able to do within the organization. Remained flat in comparison to the previous financial year and was slightly below our target of the year that we are reporting for. What is pleasing to see, though, is that the transformation profile of our chief researchers, and later on, I will also show that similarly also our principal researchers have improved over the past financial year. If you look at the number of percentage of Black chief researchers and Black female researchers, we have seen an improvement with regards to this. I think for the first time in the history of the CSIR, we now have 3 African chief researchers within the organization. I think this is really a significant and a commendable achievement in terms of driving transformation, particularly at these very senior levels of research leadership within the organization. As I mentioned before, the number of, we've achieved our target in terms of the total number of principal researchers. And again, we are seeing positive growth with regards to the transformation of this cohort of researchers within the organization. Work that we are doing in terms of the exchange programs with industry, we exceeded our target by 62%. We did not achieve our target in terms of our investment in property, plant, and equipment. This was a result of a number of factors, including delays in the acquisition of equipment and installation, but also much more the issue of financial sustainability also plays a significant role in terms of our ability to invest in property, plant, and equipment. If I move on then perhaps to some highlights with regards to some of the interventions that we have put in place to support the development of human capital within the CSIR, but also broadly in terms of what we are doing to support human capital within South Africa. So we've got a number of initiatives in this regard. The first one is our bursary program, which we do in partnership with the partners from the Department of Science and Innovation, the NRF, as well as CITES. Here we supported over the past year, 399 students were sponsored. Of these, 154 at PhD level and 121 are at master's level. We also have a graduates in training program, which is a program that is focusing on creating work exposure opportunities for our graduates to enable them to attain professional registration in their areas of expertise. Here in the past financial year, we had 30 new candidates that were appointed as part of this program. And over the lifetime of the program, from 2019-2020, we have taken in 107 graduates as part of our graduates in training program. In 39 of those, we have appointed permanently within the CSIR. We also have a workplace-based learning program within the CSIR, which is a program that we are executing in partnership with the CITES as well as TVET colleges. In the past financial year, we took in 97 interns that were supported as part of this program. And over the history of the program, we have taken in 304 interns through this particular program. We are doing this in partnership with the DSI, the Department of Higher Education and Training, the National Skills Authority, the NSF, as well as the various CITES who are part of this. A key component of this program is about ensuring that we prepare the people coming out of this program for the fourth industrial revolution, for the skills of the future. So the program is geared towards 4IR relevant capabilities to complement and to supplement the training that the participants in this program receive from TVET colleges and so forth. We also have our Youth Employment Service Initiative, which is an initiative that we started in 2020, and we've continued our investment in this regard. In the last year, we took on 74 young people as part of this program, and in the history of this program, we have taken in 219 unemployed youth through our Youth Employment Service Initiative. Now, looking internally, we also have what we call an accelerated research and development program, which is really focusing on supporting the development of principal as well as chief researchers within the organization, but with an intention to bring within the CSIR. In fact, as I mentioned before, the 3 African chief researchers that we have within the organization came through this program. And in the previous year, we saw 3 new chief researchers that were promoted, as well as 15 principal researchers that were promoted within the CSIR. 3 of those were Black, and 5 of the 15 principal researchers being female South Africans. We also have a number of corporate social investment initiatives that we are driving within the organization. Over the past year, we supported 1,767 grade 12 learners as part of the Mandela Day celebrations. We were involved with 7 high schools in terms of the Mandela Day celebrations. 4 of these are in rural areas. And some of the activities that we undertook as part of this included painting of classrooms, donation of laboratory equipment, office furniture, as well as mathematical instruments. We also supported the Gauteng Department of Basic Education in terms of their schools of specialization in science and innovation. To also ensure that we have a balance in terms of science, engineering, and technology capabilities within the organization and leadership capabilities, we've implemented a leadership and management development program within the CSIR. Over the past year, in partnership with various training institutions and business schools, 82 CSR colleagues participated in the program, and we give the demographic profile of those. And 42 of those graduated, in fact, as part of the VETS Business School graduation event that we held at the CSIR. If we move on to the last strategic objective, which is about diversification of income, maintaining financial sustainability and good governance. Here, as I said earlier, we unfortunately did not achieve our target in terms of the total income of the organization, even though in comparison to the previous financial year, our income grew by 8%. We exceeded our target in terms of our net profit. Our public sector income our private sector income, we did not achieve our target of 12% in terms of the private sector income as a percentage